Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today. Sunday, April. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sunday, April 21st, 2024. Can I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is, we've got here our 7 of Pentacles. I told you, now is not a time for trying to rush things forward. Now is a time to plant the seeds that you're going to allow that building up of intensity as we continue forward during this point. We've got a lot, I've told you even now, it's starting to ease up a little bit. It was a little bit more energetically heavy over the last few days. But again, utilizing the energy where you find it effectively, utilizing the energy where you find it. So taking that moment, what is good energetically when you feel that sense of going backwards, that Mercury retrograde pull with the come down of the energetic energy of the come down from the eclipse. It's going to be a good time to plant those seeds. It's going to be a good time to make those plans, to set those intentions. It's going to be a good time to do anything that builds upon that moment of planning. Again, recognizing and identifying that just because you don't see something happening right now doesn't mean that it's not energetically happening. We often experiencing this during the retrograde. You have that moment, you say, is it happening? Why is everything slowing down? That's because this is just a time when things start to feel like that. One of the things I also like to point out, the beauty of the Mercury retrograde period, and again, I'll always say we should welcome the retrogrades. Everything has its purpose. That ability of understanding and recognizing the difference between, sometimes the only way you can tell the difference between being in a groove or being in a rut is if you're knocked out of your groove and your rut for a minute. If you return back to it, then congratulations, it's a groove. If you get knocked out of it and suddenly you say, the way I'm doing something is a little messed up, I probably have a better way of doing something, that's that moment of recognizing and identifying what feels like productive pathways that you can carve new grooves in right now. So we see even now that for masculine and feminine energy, in the divine union frequency, a lot of that energetic work right now, a lot of that path work might be identifying what feels like it's energetically serving you in that modality of understanding and recognizing those moments that you have to feel like you need to energetically push forward, even if you might not necessarily be immediately seeing the results of your energy or your activations, because that is that moment. And I think that that's also the amplification point that, again, one of the gifts that we receive during the Mercury retrograde point is the difference between finding that way of moving that feels like it's in alignment versus having that sense of discomfort as you move from manifestation goal to manifestation goal to manifestation goal. If you're in a place of not feeling energetic harmony as you're bopping back and forth between manifestation goals, that doesn't really feel like it serves the energetic purpose, because that's that moment of recognizing and understanding that where you energetically find yourself is where you will find yourself regardless of what the manifestation goal is. It is finding that joy, finding that harmony as you proceed forward in that way that allows for that feeling of having the manifestation goal even before you receive it. And we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, recognizing and identifying, finding that comfortability point. It's one that, again, it amplifies that sense of what do we do and what do we see and recognize when we're working towards that sense of building forth on a path of purpose. That's that moment of basically saying to oneself that you don't move in that direction because of the energetic outcome, but you would find yourself moving in that direction regardless of the outcome. It's something that you would energetically do anyway. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, feeling that sense right now, and it may feel a little bit energetically peaceful. It may feel like a little bit quiet. There might be like a quietude to it, but it feels like it's like that moment of feeling like the nourishment towards what you're doing, just in the sense that you recognize and identify that it's moving in the direction that you would aspire and desire it to. This is, again, the energetic midpoint that we see that's happening right now, where we see and recognize that feminine has been getting more into that internal introspection point, going deep within the self and coming back up and understanding what it is that they're seeking at this time. Whereas for masculine, a lot of this may be that moment of coming back out of a little bit of that tailspin that we saw that you may have felt like you were hitting over the last few days. Feeling that grounded security, not only of, again, moving forward, having that energetic confidence, putting your nose to the grindstone, but being further amplified by the feminine energy that's working with you. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That's helping facilitate that feeling of getting yourself up and dusting yourself off, even if this energy energy feels like it's being a little bit more intense for you in terms of reminding you of your highest path, of your highest purpose, of that higher version of self. And that's not one that the feminine is creating and providing you, but that's one that you almost is, again, the feminine energy is reflecting and bringing forth to you, that you yourself know that that is your aspiration and your desire. So we see even now, this is a bit of that energy of masculine and feminine coming back into, starting to feel like they're coming back into something that feels a little bit more harmonic, and hopefully having avoided some of the triggering energy that we recognized and saw was occurring over the last few days. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is that same energy. Remember how I told you we recognized and identified over the last few days that there was a lot about that ability of coming into that midpoint, working these energies that are coming into divine union, are learning what it actually means to like be in divine union, potentially even recognizing that your healing journey probably felt like it was going very well until you had to like move in terms of recognizing and working with someone else's healing journey. So we see even now that these energies finding that midpoint, being able to like, again, I want to say like move their own energetic goalpost a bit, because while these energies were feeling like they had very disparate needs prior to this point, letting that be a moment of building together, like building more of that connective tissue as opposed to being pulled apart in that moment. That is one that allows for those modifications, recognizing and identifying like what you want to adapt and change to be able to meet the needs of the other, while also feeling like you're still hitting that level or degree of productivity. Congratulations. If you're doing that, that's the work that's required to be able to maintain and navigate a true divine union. And we see even now that a lot of the energy doing that, it's like feeling that sense, like, again, feeling that energetic catharsis and that feeling of, again, that sense that's amplified and saying, like, if you make something energetically easy, I know it's not because something is just energetically easy with you. I know that you've done a lot of work on the self to allow something to be facilitated with a point of easement. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is that moment that we see that there is that point of energetic catharsis to a certain extent, right? We're seeing that that's effectively occurring here. Masculine and feminine energy, both in that moment, in terms of really taking the value, being able to pull the value from this Mercury retrograde experience and helping it set the pathwork going forward, not letting yourself get caught ruminating on the past, not letting yourself get caught hung up on the past, but really letting it effectively steer and navigate you forward in relationality to how you intend to move going forward. For feminine energy, this is a lot of that like pearl diving that we may have seen that was occurring over the last week or so in terms of looking back at the past with a new set of energetic eyes, seeing and feeling that sense of understanding around circumstances and situations. It is facilitating the feminine energy, not just holding, like this isn't the feminine energy that's looking back at the past, seeing something that they didn't see there and allowing that moment of energetic bitterness to hold them back in that place. But this is almost feminine energy that's reinforcing their own energetic commitment in relationality to the direction that they're moving in. And we see even now, like for that energy, that is like I told you, like what happens when you have that moment of looking back at the past and you feel that anger or that frustration in something that you may have been mis-experiencing or you're now experiencing in a different way, almost pouring that energetic cup out, right? Like pouring it into productive spaces and places. This is how the feminine energy is almost saying to themselves, like, I'm not going to take anything that I've had to energetically recover from and like continue to carry that wound with me. I'm going to pour it into a place or space that's going to allow for something positive to grow in the space that was. While for masculine energy, this same modality, the same pathwork of purpose. If these were moments where masculine energy was looking back at the past and having that sense of energetic accountability, giving yourself that sense of healing, almost giving yourself that like moment of saying like, if I can look back at the past and I've got some notes on the past version of self, well, that's wonderful because that's giving me that sense of understanding on what I need to change going forward. Right? That is what allows us to come into healing. That's what allows us to go into growth. That's what allows us to come into those points of understanding and recognizing something that we would do differently. And if we have a moment that we can look back and say, there's something I would do differently, well, congratulations. Welcome to the present where anything is possible. Thank you so much for that. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today. And you want to be transverse. We've got a transverse card coming up today. We've got our Chariot in its transverse. Not a lot of movement today, huh? It's just not, again, here's the thing. I want to put it this way. This is just kind of like, again, this is just kind of vibing with the vibe and the energetic vibe right now. It's almost that moment of recognizing that, like, the retrograde is just one that, like, even if you're moving forward, it's not going to feel like you are. Like, the best thing you can do when you try to move forward with the energy that we're experiencing right now with, like, the eclipse come down and the pulling back of the retrograde is if, like, you're feeling like you're staying, like, baseline, congratulations, because that's not being pulled back by the tide. That's not being pulled back by the tide. You're like, I'm just here. I'm just feeling like I'm just here. That's fine. Because that, in a way, with energy like this, that's almost like a moment. Like, that in itself is a point of success. Like, so I'll just say this right now. If you're going through this energetically and you're like, I'm not feeling like I'm not making any energetic progress right now, but I am feeling like stable, congratulations. Like, you're doing just fine. Because I told you, a lot of that path work, it's very possible right now to get, and like what happens with a slingshot, if you misfire it, it can go anywhere. So being able to, like, experience that and not let it create that sense in you of acting rashly or feeling something and letting it disrupt your energetic focus. Like, that effectively is like, congratulations. Like, everybody gets gold stars right now if you're going through this and you're not letting yourself get energetically triggered, because the ability to feel that moment, to feel that energetic pullback, but letting it, and we see even now, it's not like that energy, I'm not across all of it, it's not like that energy is feeling like there's progress here, but being able to sometimes some things are built to be able to just kind of create that space of saying, like, is this going to, like, bring you backwards? Is this going to make you kind of go backwards, or are you going to be able to just stay here? So even now we can almost feel like, again, and I know you guys are so mean to the retrograde, but do you see how this is a little bit of, like, strength training here, like energetic strength training? Your own ability to, like, maintain a pose right now is beautiful and commendable. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is a lot of this moment that we're effectively seeing. That is, I told you, this is the type of energy of really setting your intentionality, setting your purpose, building that moment in terms of, like, reaffirming one's own energetic commitment towards what you're building towards. Now, masculine and feminine, it is having a bit of a different impact, because we see here that for the feminine energy, a lot of this is reaffirming one's own commitment in terms of recognizing and identifying. This is feminine energy that is looking for the tangibles in relationality to path work. I'll just put it that way. And even now, a lot of this work that we're seeing, especially with a lot of this feminine energy, looking back on circumstances and situations, if in separation, there is that point of feminine energy, potentially looking back on some things right now and seeing something with a new set of eyes, and saying to oneself, to a certain extent, I'm not sure what was going on under the surface around circumstances or situations, especially if these are moments wherein the feminine energy is recognizing they're not being able to see something that they need to facilitate some pathwork of change on, beyond utilizing a little bit more energetic discernment in relationality to who they're building with, and making sure that there is that same matched intentionality of purpose going forward. For feminine energy, this is almost that moment. I told you, it has to do with navigating through things that are confusing. This is feminine energy, recognizing and understanding to a certain extent, looking at something and saying to themselves energetically, if something is energetically confusing, then that's not in the manifestation goal, right? That's almost the moment that we see that the feminine energy is saying to themselves, like even now, looking back on something, that retrograde energy saying, there's something there I don't understand, especially if these are partnerships or situations or karmic lessons that you're experiencing, wherein, again, there's only so far that one's own understanding of situations and circumstances can result in. It's almost the feminine energy looking back now, moving something that they were taking as a personal failure point, externalizing it outside towards situations, saying to themselves, I don't, like wanting to almost like Nancy Drew something and be like, well, I don't understand that completely. But then the feminine energy almost like shrugging and going, what's the energetic purpose of that? Because if the energetic results are the same, if the tangibles of something are the same as the tangibles of something else, then that's a feminine energy saying, to be able to navigate and understand like why something wasn't working the way it was, the feminine's almost saying to themselves in separation, I don't need to understand all the whys. I need to understand whether it was energetically, like, was this the energy of the feminine? This is the feminine going, was it something that I could have facilitated differently? No. Then that's feminine almost looking and saying, I need to move into ground. I need to move into spaces. I need to move towards people that build towards the same things I want. Like, that is literally the energetic lesson that we see that a lot of the feminine in separation is creating for themselves right now. And that's the feminine energy saying, to a certain extent, if someone doesn't come towards the feminine from a point of intention of purpose, then that's the feminine energy saying, that's all I need to energetically see. I don't need to try to facilitate that pathwork of purpose. I just need to ascertain whether it's energetically there or not. And that's the feminine energy coming into a sense of, again, reaffirming their own energetic commitment in terms of what they're growing towards and how they're growing, with that affirmation of saying, when someone moves towards feminine with intentionality of purpose, feminine's like, I will not be able to miss it. Because how does one miss intentionality of purpose? Anything that doesn't have intentionality of purpose is confusion. And feminine's just basically saying, my path of purpose, this is feminine energy looking towards the path forward and saying, my path of purpose is one to identify and recognize whether there's a path of purpose there. And if there's confusion, there's not. While for masculine energy in separation right now, this is energetically building upon what that path of purpose is. For masculine energy in separation right now, this could be a moment wherein you're looking back at the past and you may be identifying and recognizing places or spaces wherein you may have had partnerships, commitments, potentially break down to a certain extent, come into that space or space of energetic disillusion because, again, masculine recognizing and understanding that to a certain extent, a lot of the connection that you build with feminine, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, is built and is important and it is valuable in terms of you being able to identify what that path of purpose is. Because again, this is either having those moments where you're recognizing that the reason that there was some kind of breakdown there was the feeling energetically, there was a sense of not knowing where something was going. When feminine energy doesn't know where something is going, feminine energy will depart energetically from that path. And for a lot of the masculine energy, we see even now that recognition point. If this was a moment that you were experiencing confusion from the feminine, you have to ask yourself, was I giving feminine confusion? Were they reflecting back my own confusion? This is that moment for masculine of potentially doing a lot of internal introspection right now in relationality to what it is that you truly aspire and desire. What does that higher self look like? What does that pathwork look like? All for the sake of trying to build that sense of understanding of how to basically get there. And what's beautiful about this for a lot of the masculine energy in separation is this isn't necessarily something where you're seeking this out outside of the self. This is a moment that we see to a certain extent, you're bringing it back within. You're going back towards oneself to say, if I want to build forth towards feminine, I need to be able to bring forth to feminine what that looks like, what that path is. The more confident I am and able to being able to come into the heart of intimacy, to tell the feminine what it is that I desire, the better and easier it will be to be able to find the energetic frequency of the feminine that matches my own desire. Because that's one that facilitates pathwork moving faster together energetically, as opposed to feeling like I'm building around someone energetically. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that moment of energetic modification that we're seeing that you're learning how to do. Remember, I told you a good energetic partnership is one that even when you're not necessarily in the same energetic places, it's not that you always desire to do the same things in the same way, but the ability to facilitate, to find that Venn diagram, being able to come into a point of modification, adjusting your own needs to be able to meet the needs of the other without feeling like you are completely abandoning your personal needs. That is the pathwork of divine union. And we see here that the energy coming into divine union is like learning as they go. It's a process. It takes time, but this energy is committed to doing so. And that's what's allowing for that sense of comfort and catharsis to come around circumstances and situations of that nature. While for masculine and feminine energy, in the divine union frequency right now, this is more of that energetic feeling of kind of like, I want to say, moving into that process right now of like, this is the energy in the divine union, just kind of finding their groove. You know, like this is a lot of that moment of just looking, this is a lot of that act of discernment that we see that the energy in the divine union is doing right now in terms of recognizing and identifying. And it does feel like it's a little bit on like a binary on what feels like it's productive, What feels like it's energetically supportive versus what feels like it's not energetically supporting, right? And why do we see this happening? This is something that we constantly see right now for the energy and divine union, because the divine union is looking at spaces and places that want to energetically grow, that want to expand, that have that ability to like plant those seeds. So for the energy in the divine union, experiencing those moments that something isn't energetically moving, that doesn't feel like a point of energetic crisis. It almost is just a moment of observation, looking and saying to oneself, like, where else can we move? Like, what else can we do? How else can we proceed? Because that's that moment of, again, feeling the feeling the slowdown that is experienced during the retrograde, but not letting yourself get overwhelmed with it. Instead, finding that productivity, finding that path of purpose and relationality to plans, to expansion. And that's that moment that, again, it's not that you don't ignore, you don't like put your eye towards what isn't energetically working, but you're always putting your eye to what's energetically not working to be able to figure out something that will. So this is going to feel like a little bit of that like productivity, not necessarily movement today, but a lot of like a determination in terms of plans, planning, path work, in terms of like what you have your sights set on, and identifying anything that you may feel like is an energetic blocker. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here on top of this, here's that energy of the retrograde bringing forth. The problem about this right now, I'm going to stress, it's difficult, it's triggering. The past, a lot of the energy from the past still coming to the surface. But again, masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This isn't a moment that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent that feels like this is the energy of the past rising back up to the surface in a way that doesn't feel like it's energetically productive. This is the energy right now, and this is either happening on the metaphysical level or on the tangible level. This is, again, being able to look back on the past to utilize as an energetic toolkit, to see something, to build upon that experience, to understand something in a different way. So even as these energies are having that moment of looking back at past moments or past experiences, it's not one where you're utilizing that sense or that feeling of like, creating an energetic blockage by focusing on the past, which is something that we often do, but instead utilizing the past exactly to facilitate, to observe, and to recognize what one might want to change going forward, to allow for that amplification of being able to find that point of productivity. So for the energy in the divine union, while it may feel difficult to revisit past situations and circumstances that created those blockages, we see here that that ability to do that is simply exactly, and it's being served the purposes right now of helping you build that sense of planning going forward. While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, the ability to recognize and identify, to find that moment of modification, to find the ability to meet another at a point where you recognize that you may have different needs and desires right now. But finding that path point, that midpoint between being able to energetically serve the needs of the other while also feeling like you're not abandoning the needs of the self, that is a moment that requires a lot of internal calibration. And we see even now that a lot of the energy is referencing and experiencing situations from the past, much like the energy in the divine union frequency, not letting them act as hurdles, but utilizing that toolkit from past experiences to identify and recognize what feels like it creates moment of productivity going forward. While for masculine and feminine energy and separation right now, this is energetically heavy. I'm going to be completely honest. It's energetically heavy, specifically due to the fact that we're seeing that a lot of that energy, this almost feels like you're caught in a little bit of this like limbo, if you will. I'm just going to say it. Like some of this feeling right now for a lot of the energy and separation could be feeling like you're a little bit caught in like energetic limbo. So being able to ground yourself through this right now is really, really important, because it's not the fact that we see here that these energies in separation, it's not that they're not moving forward right now, right? But a lot of this moving forward is being heavily informed upon the past revisiting right now, either tangibly or metaphysically. So that ability to ascertain what happens, why is it a gift when the Mercury retrograde brings the past back? It's not doing so I know it can feel energetically painful, but it's not doing so for the sake of trying to energetically cause harm. It's doing so to allow for course correction. So if that's occurring, we're seeing that that's either a moment that you're looking back at the past and you're reaffirming your own commitment to what occurred in the past as you proceed forward, right? It's almost like that moment of revisitation and saying, like, it's not that one is energetically perfect, but again, you're coming into that discernment being like, well, I would have done something energetically differently. If I'd recognized something, I would have done this. Like having that moment where you go through that process of revisitation within your own head, that allows you the ability to build forth positively going forward. And for the energy of the feminine right now, this is a lot of that path work of energetic discernment. This is a lot of the feminine recognizing and realizing to a certain extent. Not, again, a good energetic path is not one where you'll look back on the past and say, everything I did was just aces. I was like, oh my God, I just aced every assignment. Like if you're doing that energetically, you're probably, you might need to like revisit it again, because like even again, energy that's healing is almost that moment that we see of looking and again, feeling that sense of saying, I can see things I would have done better. I can see things I wish that I could change. I can see these things. This is the gift of looking back at the past, someone bringing the book back to an extent. But being able to do that and let that be that moment of reaffirming and amplifying your own ability to adjust and modify going forward. That is the beauty of a period like this, because we see here that there is a lot of growth that's possible here. There's a lot of progress forward. But this is almost that moment of feeling the past rising up and almost like, again, being able to energetically commit, feeling like you're utilizing it in a productive fashion. And even for the energy right now that's in that modality, a lot of this energy isn't moving into divine union right now. And again, there's that reminder that's happening of saying to oneself, just because I see it doesn't mean it's energetically not there. If I'm putting my path work and energy in the direction I know that I'm going in, that's not something that I feel like you need to rush that process effectively. That's one that, again, we see here. It's almost like a wait and see, because it's like you're committed to the path work that you're committed on because you know that that's the direction that you want to go. For masculine energy right now, and there is some energy here, and this is going to feel a little bit on both sides. This is not necessarily even a message right now that's happening depending on masculine or feminine. That ability to modify right now is going to feel like the amplification point, and it all depends on ratios, right? There's a ratio. If you're feeling the ratio of looking back at one's own past and saying, well, there's a few things that I would energetically change, but on the whole, I feel like that was the like those were like I made those choices. I feel like they were the right choices for me. Like that's the energy that's committing towards going forward right now. That's the energy that says the direction I'm going is that way. If you're going into a space or place where you're looking back and going, oh, there's like a big thing I wish I could have energetically corrected. There's something there that like that was something on me. Like that's something I wish I could do some kind of like repair work on. Well, that could even be a moment that we see that some of this energy is putting into restoration, because that's that moment of saying, I don't want to energetically proceed until I come into some kind of recalibration on something that's rising up, because the concentration and focus on it is holding me energetically down. So I want to come into a space or place of being able to energetically restore through it. So a lot of this, and this is going to be case by case basis, depending on masculine and feminine, either way, but same message, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That ability to sort through that process is what is energetically happening. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, it's like it's a struggle bus. It's hard. It's not comfortable. I'm going to just say it. It's not doing this type of work is not pleasant. It's very uncomfortable. Right? Because you don't want to like that moment. You're like, oh, like why is the past coming up here? It's like that, you know what I mean? And we see even now, like that moment, you're like, it's like, it's either something that you're experiencing tangibly or metaphysically. It's like that moment, like feeling the memory or something coming back. You're like, what are you doing back here? Like, what is this? Like, and so again, even now, like we see that ability to recognize and understand that ability to like navigate through it. That is what that moment, and I told you, it's a little bit of a strength training exercise here, because that's that moment that, again, is a point of feeling that sense of like, again, it's going to feel like a ratio, that energetic sense of confidence and looking back on something and saying, yeah, I don't feel like I would energetically change something. I've gone through, I've rolled back the tape. I've rolled back the tape. I've rolled back the tape. And the retrograde always goes, hi, I'm here to make you roll back the tape. I'm here to make you roll back the tape. Do you want to recheck that? And if you're, and like, again, if you're looking back on that and you're saying, I don't see anything I would really, okay, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. Like little, like that. That's that moment that like, it can just feel annoying. It can just feel annoying because you're like, ugh, you know what I mean? But that's probably a good thing if you're feeling it that way, because that's that moment of you feeling something coming back and being like annoyed by it because it's something that you're like, it's coming back, but you're like, I can't, there's nothing I would energetically change here. You know what I mean? It's like you're knocking and it's like, what, like there's nothing I would change. You know what I mean? So we see here for the but for the energy that's moving in that other direction, right? And this is what I mean about the ratios. To have that moment of something coming back and coming back and coming back, and you looking back and going, oh, I really wish like, oh my gosh, that's just, oh, why did I do that? That was, oh, and I did that. Oh my God, I did that and I did that. Oh, geez. I'm going to say it again. If you're having those moments during periods like this and you're going, oh, congratulations, like you're in the future. And that shows that moment that you have come into a point where you are no longer the person who would have made those choices, right? If you come into those moments where you recognize that you wouldn't have made those choices, or you feel like you have some kind of deeper, like deepening lesson where you would have done something energetically differently, I'm going to say it again. Welcome to the present. Welcome to the present where anything is energetically possible, because that is that moment that is helping to amplify and set that course correction in relationality to looking at something that you feel like you are caught on, right? Energetically caught on, and saying to oneself, I know that the reason that's coming back is because I know that there is something that I would rather do. There's something that I can do. And that is the beauty of the present, is that it builds that sense of being able to come into energetic course correction. While masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, that energetic course correction is what you're learning just having to navigate working with another energy and with an energetic counterpart. For this energy, it's almost that moment that's requiring you to look back into your own toolbox, if you will, because for this energy, even recognizing and identifying, feeling that difficulty, feeling that hurdle, right? Feeling that point of energetic modification, remembering that when we move into true divine union, it's not that we always do everything that we desire to do at every moment, but finding that energetic sweet spot of modification on what we can adjust upon our own path to be able to meet the needs of the other. It's annoying. I'm going to just be honest. It can be energetically annoying, right? That's that moment. But again, that is I have to stress that the energy, the frequency of love is the frequency. It's not the frequency that there isn't annoyance there, right? Like when you love someone or you love something, you can be annoyed a lot. Like you could, but that's that moment of saying to oneself, saying it's small. It's small in relationality. It's small, that feeling, that ratio, that feeling of modification is small in relationality to what you get back in return. And that's why it's so important that we make sure we find someone who we energetically match frequencies with, because that's meeting that energetic meeting of ratios in relationality to saying, like, even when I have to modify with you, even when I have to come into a point of adjustment, I don't feel like the scales are imbalanced. I feel like it's something that like is a perfect blending in relationality to what would I give back versus what what I receive. So we see even now these energies. It's not that they're in this moment of everything being energetically perfect. They make everything energetically perfect because they're committed to making things energetically perfect. It is intentionality in that type of work, right? It is something that they work together through, and they utilize the past lessons, past experiences to empower them to reach into that toolbox of nostalgia to help reaffirm and build that sense of understanding in relationality to how to do so. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the energetic challenges that we're seeing to a certain extent right now is the fact that for a lot of this energy right now, it's a little frustrating because we see even now these are energies in the heart of the divine union frequency. They've got a lot of manifestation goals. The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is working on a lot of manifestation goals right now. And I guarantee you a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now It may feel like, it's like quiet. It's just may feel like energetically quiet to a certain extent, because again, why? Because we're in the Mercury retrograde period with the come down of the eclipse. I told you, like the slingshot effect. And so there's like feeling of that anticipation, like it's frustrating. It's a frustrating feeling because it's that moment that amplifies that sensation of like pulling backwards. You feel like the past pulling back, as well as feeling that struggle to move forward right now. So what are these energies doing? You feel like you're kind of caught in that moment of just maintaining, right? It's that maintenance energy, because it's that moment of saying like, as long as I'm staying even keel through this, right? Like as long as I'm staying like even keel on that right now, like that's that moment that feels like that amplification in relationality to saying like, again, finding like feeling like, if you're feeling like, I gotta say, if you're experiencing this right now and you're just feeling like this, like you're just feeling like this, good job. Good job. You're doing it. Like you're doing it, because that's that moment that you're not letting yourself get triggered by the past, and you're not letting yourself get frustrated by how hard it is to move forward right now. Sometimes just being in that modality, sometimes just being able to like stay balanced, to find that ability to harmonize throughout, like you're like beautiful. Like that's the job right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, because again, that's what the gift of planning is, right? And even now we saw that this was a lot of the lesson that the feminine energy was providing towards the masculine over the last few days, because we saw here that there's something a little bit energetically easier for the feminine to navigate right now. It's been a little bit harder for the masculine, because something about this feeling, I've been describing it. I told you the last few days has the masculine energy, I'll put it this way, feminine energy is like sitting there like just doing a puzzle. Like the feminine energy is feeling this kind of energy, and they're like, I'm just going to put this little puzzle together. I'm going to take this little piece, I'm going to put it here. And masculine is having this feeling, and then masculine is saying to feminine as they're doing this, masculine is like, we got to go. And feminine's like, no, I'm working on this puzzle. I just need to do these little things. Masculine's been feeling this. I've been describing this on like Never Ending Story with like him, like Artreyu trying to pull Artex out of like the quicksand and being like, we have to move, because masculine's trying to move forward through this, and it feels energetically heavy, and the slowness is triggering them. Right? And so that's why we see even now, like energetically, this moment has been a lot of the feminine almost re-amplifying to the masculine and saying to the masculine, is that anxiety well placed? Is that anxiety well placed? Has anything effectively energetically changed from the week prior to the week this week? No? Okay. If you're in that moment that you're feeling that heaviness or that anxiety and nothing has actually changed between this week and last week, then you got to say to yourself, you got to read the room. Is it just because the temperature? Is it because the energetic temperature is one that's bringing something forth in that way? So we see even now that we've got a lot of that energy, like masculine's coming back out. Now masculine, what's happening with feminine helping masculine this way? Feminine's helping masculine come into that same space, helping the masculine stay on that terra firma, if you will. And almost again, reaffirming that commitment to moving forward, even if you're not necessarily energetically seeing the results in the immediacy, right? Because that's that moment of saying to oneself, if it's not here, it's not because we're not moving in the right direction. It just means that we're still on the way, right? That's the difference between feeling that sense of positivity as you move towards manifestation goals. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that energetic sweet spot. I told you the happy medium was really important yesterday, or the day before, working through that happy medium, trying to find that energetic modification point. This is what the energy in divine union works for. It's not the fact that everybody gets what they want at every moment. That's not how divine union works. It's finding that balance point, that ability to identify and recognize how much you can move out of your own energetic comfort zone to meet the needs of the other, so that you both can get to the same destination with a sense of energetic happiness along the way. Right? So I told you, it's these energies, the difference between an argument and a conflict. An argument are energies that desire the same thing and are moving in the same direction. They just have different ways of getting there, versus energies that are pulling in different directions. These energies want the same things. They just got a little difficulty or difference in what they want on the way. So what are these energies doing? They're meeting each other's needs. They're bringing the energetic snacks. They're making that moment of being able to like find that point of easement, coming into a point of potentially even at times energetic discomfiture for the sake of moving more positively, energetically, and holistically towards the same manifestation direction. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, this idea of whether you are moving towards the same manifestation goals with past energy, maybe rising back up to the surface a lot, for a lot of this energy that's feeling some of that energy of the retrograde coming back, that's bringing things back forward. Because for the feminine energy, and this is why for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, this is why it can feel so triggering. Because that's the feminine energy experiencing and feeling something and looking back at past connections with masculine, saying to themselves, if something was really difficult in a past experience, were you guys moving in the same direction? Did you have the same map? Were you both planning on going in the same direction? Because this is the feminine energy looking towards situations and circumstances like that and truly asking themselves that if something reached that point of difficulty, if something was so hard in the past, it may be, again, this is why how the feminine energy is healing, because this is the feminine energy almost looking at something and saying to a certain extent, if I can't find something that I would modify and change within my own person, around a situation or circumstance where I thought we were moving in the same direction, maybe the lesson I needed to learn was really asking myself, did we actually want the same things? Did we have the same desires? Were we actually moving towards the same manifestation goal? Because I told you, what's the difference between an argument and a conflict? An argument are energies that want the same thing and go in the same direction, like just have different points to determination in terms of how to get there. An argument, like a conflict, are energies that want very different things, and they're trying to bring the other person like in that direction. So we see even now, like that's how a lot of the feminine energy is building that point of catharsis right now, because this is the feminine energy potentially looking back and saying, I think maybe the reason something didn't work was because really, truly, energetically, someone may have wanted something very different than what I wanted. And that's a feminine energy, again, feeling that moment of saying like, okay, I need to make sure that when I move towards someone that they have the same excitement in terms of what they're bringing forth, that they know what that destination is, instead of me coming into a place of potentially assuming that they do. Masculine energy in separation right now, one of the things that we see that you're energetically doing to a certain extent is, again, trying to come towards that sense of energetic path work in relationality to path, to purpose, what that destination goal is. And we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation, a lot of that energy of the past coming back up, that's the gift of being able to feel some of that experience of the past rising back to the surface, because that's that moment that we see for masculine energy. Potentially, if these were circumstances or situations wherein you might not necessarily have been either energetically clear in relationality to what it is that you truly wanted, this is either happening in two different modalities right now. This is masculine energy potentially having approached feminine and been too afraid to tell feminine what their dreams were, not being able to build into the heart of intimacy because of your own fear, or masculine energy potentially not having that path of purpose there, and recognizing and identifying that when we're not able to have that path of purpose clear, it can almost feel like we start experiencing these moments of energetic stagnancy, because that's that moment that it may feel like we're almost like caught adrift in our own lives, because it doesn't really matter what's happening at that point, because it feels like there's not like something that makes energetic sense, because it just feels like you're kind of like, moving aimlessly, if you will. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, this is some heavy energy right now of masculine and separation, building upon that manifestation goal, really asking oneself what it is that you truly aspire and desire. What does the shape of that look like? Who are you energetically with? And that's that masculine energy right now. Again, coming into that path of purpose is one that is either amplifying a need and desire to either go back to past experiences and circumstances to be able to rectify, because we see even now that a lot of this is some masculine energy and separation, having a moment. What happens when we reprioritize? What happens when our priorities change? What often happens when our priorities change is we look back in the past and we suddenly feel like we left something back there that now has complete and a high degree of value that we didn't energetically see. So this is either the masculine energy coming into that point of feeling that sense of wanting to, again, go back to something from the past to be able to come into some point of restoration or rectification, or utilizing that past experience as an energetic lesson that helps amplify your own journey forward from this time. It all depends on where you want to energetically be. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Pentacles in combination with our Chariot and its transverse. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. On top of all of this, we still got these abandonment wounds that are popping up, right? We've got these abandonment wounds that are popping up. It's problematic. There's been a lot of heavy, intense energy right now. So I'm going to say it again. If you're just at a moment that you're just like hitting that like even Steven, like kind of like keel, like you're just hitting that even keel, you're already succeeding. Like you're doing a great job. Like gold stars, because that's that moment that we're effectively seeing to a certain extent. Masculine and feminine energy, a lot of healing in separation right now around the abandonment wound. Just a lot of healing. And again, that ability is really important because for feminine energy, that need or that desire, that what happens to feminine energy right now? When feminine energy moves into a place of space of saying to themselves, I'm with someone no matter what, then that's a feminine energy that almost recognizes that they abandon their own energetic path work. Because saying to someone, I'm with someone no matter what, that's that moment that, like, again, it can almost feel like those points of feeling like energetically caught adrift, if you will, because that's that moment that feels like that sense of amplifying and saying that the desire to be with someone usurps any desire to go anywhere energetically. So we see even now that this is feminine energy healing the abandonment wound in relationality to saying to themselves, you know, I'm not effectively energetically abandoning someone at a moment that I choose to follow my own path and purpose. I'm recognizing that, again, energy that's in alignment with me isn't going to require me to abandon my path and purpose. We're going to facilitate path work that feels like we're moving together. We're moving forward together. And that moment of being able to recognize and understand like the difficulty or hurdles here, this is the feminine energy navigating forth around circumstances or situations where they may be feeling energetic frustration, because I told you a lot of the feminine energy is healing from places or spaces where they feel like they were experiencing a blocker in manifestation goals and path work, specifically due to the fact of potentially feeling that sense of not necessarily moving with or in the past with someone that had the same aspirations and desires of the feminine. So this is the feminine energy confronting the abandonment wound and saying, you know, when I am afraid of someone energetically leaving me, that is that moment of feminine saying, that is the moment that I'm basically saying I'm willing to disrupt my own direction forward for the sake of staying towards someone at all costs, even at cost of being able to follow my own energetic path. Masculine energy in separation. This ability of recognizing and identifying, feeling this moment of really asking oneself what it is that you truly aspire and desire at this time. A lot of the masculine energy right now going through that energetic process, confronting the abandonment wound, wherein again, if these were bases or states masculine, wherein you had a desire to move forward with feminine, you had a heart's desire, but you were too afraid to articulate it, you may be recognizing how you may have acted energetically as a blocker towards your own blessings, because those are moments wherein again, your own fear, that thing that wanted to protect you when you're being like, you know, like attacked by a bear or something, that's the thing that came up and blocked you or prevented you from being able to move towards your own manifestation goals. Or masculine energy right now, if there's a moment that you're feeling that sense of not knowing what your path or purpose is, that ability to really start to sit and amplify and think to oneself, like, what is it that I truly want? What is it that feeling like, you know, creates that sense of energetic nourishment in me? That is that ability that we see even now. A lot of the masculine energy, like moving into that sense of saying, like, you know, if I move the fear out of the way, if I like move the abandonment out of the way, what is it that I truly desire and aspire? And that's almost helping the masculine right now build that sense in terms of where they're going to build forth in the going forward. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that path work of modification. That's what we're effectively seeing, because for the masculine and the feminine energy right now that's coming into divine union, this recognition point, and I told you, it's not the fact that these energies don't make compensations for each other, right? These energies effectively recognize the difference, the value of being able to make those adjustments, right? And we see it even here. These energies are confronting their own abandonment wound at times when they feel like they have to come into those points of modification for one another. But this isn't a moment that we see. These energies are learning how to do this in such a way that they feel like they make those compensations, they make those adjustments without losing the effective direction that they're hoping and aspiring to go into. And that's where we see it's like that ratio of give and take, wanting to make accommodations to meet the needs of the other while also not abandoning one's own self. That is like the sign of like the healthy energetic connection, because it's one that almost like says like, I'm willing to slow something down that I aspire and desire to be able to meet and match your own comfort level. I'm willing to modify like and adjust the course a little bit if there's like something here that you want to see, because it's not that moment of feeling like we're getting off course. It's almost like we're taking a little like we're taking a little bit of a longer way about, if you will. But that's that moment that because you share the same manifestation goal, it doesn't feel like, while it may feel a little frustrating, it doesn't feel overall like that big a deal, because it's something that's like small. It's like a small thing to do in comparison to what you're truly building together. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union right now. What we effectively or energetically see to a certain extent is this is the energy right now that's doing a lot of that path work in relationality to confronting one's own abandonment wounds. And what's beautiful about this is, again, the energy in the divine union frequency. It's not the fact that there aren't abandonment wounds that are coming up at this time of like feeling a little bit of that energetic stagnancy. It's doing that important energetic work of not subjecting another individual to one's own abandonment wounds. Having that moment of being able to, the reason it is so valuable and important to be able to confront our own fears, our own anxieties, is that we're able to effectively do that important work in asking ourselves if that fear and anxiety is one that feels like it is productive to be able to share with another, or if it's something that is within. Is it something that we're working on from internally? And we see even now that a lot of that energy right now, it's not that those doubts and fears don't rise up to the surface as they often do during periods like this, but the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency is utilizing that path work of seeing and recognizing something and saying to themselves, is this productive? Is this something that can be facilitated change on? Is this something that we can utilize to adjust and accommodate our pathwork going forward? Or is that something that I need, like, that needs to be internally managed from within? Is that the abandonment wound that's rising to the surface that needs to be effectively like held firm? And that's why we see even now being able to feel that point of like stillness, having that abandonment wound rise up, but continuing to be productive throughout it. Like that is like almost a moment that we see to a certain extent that a lot of the energy in this modality is feeling like that is the energetic act of compassion, because that is that moment of effectively saying like, this is the energy that again does that work on the self to protect the energy around them from what feels like the anxiety points or the fears that don't necessarily have that amplification point in terms of activation versus what just needs to be navigated internally. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Pentacles in combination with our Four of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the things that we're seeing, and again, so you notice how a few days ago it was the masculine energy that needed a little bit more of that energetic support. Now we see that the masculine energy is in that state or space where they're starting to feel like, again, the ability of feminine to help the masculine, giving them that sense of energetic stability, acting as a clear mirror to the masculine. Masculine's getting back into their groove, right? Masculine energies navigating through that moment, coming back to like terra firma, even in the face of some of those anxieties and fears from the past rising to the surface. Feminine energy, now we see that for the feminine energy, this is a little bit more energetically heavy. Why is it energetically heavy right now? Because this is the feminine energy still navigating. This is the feminine energy going more into their emotionality in relationality to experiences from the past. Why is the feminine energy going through this right now? Because we see to a certain extent that this is the feminine energy doing this important path work in terms of recognizing and experiencing. What did we say that we were just seeing that was happening? Being very mindful right now, especially if you feel like those abandonment wounds are rising to the surface. We don't want to have spaces or places wherein our emotions push us away from what it is that we aspire and desire for. And we see even now that a lot of that feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, is doing that energetic work. It's not the fact that the feminine isn't feeling a lot of that energetic overwhelm, particularly in relationality to experiences from the past. What's the feminine energy doing with it? Is the feminine energy allowing themselves to get emotionally triggered? Is the feminine energy allowing themselves to come into that moment or opportunity wherein again you effectively, you subject someone else to your emotions? No, the feminine energy is taking that emotional overwhelm and they're facilitating it and they're putting it into productive spaces and places. That is how the feminine energy is basically processing a lot of that moment, those experiences from the past, and letting it help propel them forward in positive, productive ways. That's like the utilization of the energetic overwhelm into a valuable lesson coming forward. While for masculine energy in the divine union frequency, feminine energy almost amplifying and articulating to the masculine. I'll keep in mind a lot of this had to do with the fact that the feminine almost said to the masculine, like, I'm also like if this was masculine coming to the heart of feminine saying like, I doubt myself, I'm energetically afraid. This is feminine energy that almost like matched the masculine there and is like, well, I'm always like, I am as well. Like, but this is a feminine that effectively gave that back to the masculine. Remember? That was the feminine energy giving back to masculine, something that the masculine gave to the feminine. Like, here, you gave me this. You gave me this sense of confidence. You gave me that sense of energetic support. And so we see even now that for masculine energy, to see a feminine, to almost recognize a feminine that basically like built from a point of intimacy and almost said to the masculine in those moments, I feel it too. I also feel what you're feeling. What you're feeling is not a moment that is an internal moment for you, but I also share it. This is that moment, that sense of feminine just helping the masculine recognize and feel that feeling of not being energetically alone is the moment that immediately almost brought the masculine back to themselves, because that's that moment of the masculine seeing and recognizing that that's a feminine energy that was working through their own abandonment wound. And the masculine, what is the masculine doing? Trying to match the feminine in that vibration, right? Feminine acting as a clear mirror to the masculine, and masculine trying to return it back to feminine in kind. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, this is the energy coming up and learning how to come into a point of modification that sometimes feels like compromise, because we see even now, what did I say was happening? There was something the feminine might have wanted to energetically do that they were very excited about. There was something that the feminine wanted to do that masculine was less excited about. Masculine was feeling more of that need to like move forward, not wanting to come into that point or pathwork of discernment. Are these energies just saying like, no, you do you, I do me? No, they're coming into that place of finding what feels like the happy medium. And a lot of this is, again, that need or that desire of the masculine to, again, not want to abandon their own needs, but also figuring out and understanding like what feels like there's some accommodation point here to be able to create a state or space of meeting the emotional needs of the feminine, especially if this was something that the feminine articulated to the masculine, that was something that was very emotionally or energetically important to the feminine. This is almost the masculine saying like, okay, I can come into that pathwork of modification. I can make those adjustments. And we see here for the feminine to see the masculine coming into that modality, even again, doing things that they don't necessarily feel like as eager to do, but for the sake of the energy of pleasing the feminine. These are energies that both come into that like constant modification point in not wanting to feel like someone is over giving to them, but almost trying to find that vibration or that point that like, again, creates that energetic sweet spot in terms of the give and take. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This may be a little bit more of an emotionally triggering day for the feminine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Because we just simply see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, a lot of the past is potentially returning at this time. But a lot of that is either happening either on a tangible or a metaphysical level. And so we see for the feminine, a lot of this, and I think even now I'm seeing that for a lot of the feminine energy, being able to take that feeling of emotional overwhelm and let it kind of reinvest like in what you're building towards at this time. That's what a lot of this feminine energy is doing. Because in a way, what's happening here is that moment of feeling the past coming back up. I'm not seeing these moments here. And there is some, like I will say, there are some spaces here that I see that feminine may be seeing from the past, that they may be having these moments of saying, like, I could have done that a little bit better. I could have done that a little bit better. But what is the feminine doing with that energetically? They're recalibrating. They're recalibrating. This is the feminine energy taking that and coming into those points of modification, assessing, fine-tuning, if you will. And that's that moment that the emotional, energetic overwhelm is creating that sense of energetic fastidiousness in the feminine, looking at something with like a very close microscope and saying, is there anything else I could do around something? Is there anything else I would modify? Is there anything else in the present I would change about the past? And that's the feminine, like, again, feeling rather reaffirmed in terms of what their own commitments are energetically going forward. While for masculine energy right now in separation, this is that moment that, again, for some of the masculine energy, I have to say this is a reprioritization moment that is occurring right now. For a lot of the masculine energy, this could be feeling like there's been some kind of energetic shift in relationality to what you're energetically seeking. A lot of this masculine energy having that moment of reasserting and seeing the past from the moment of reprioritizing what it is you're seeking to grow and build in the present. That can create a moment that can feel sometimes energetically overwhelming, because this could be a moment that you may feel like there's something from the past that you energetically left behind, because that's often very frequent when we have those moments wherein we recognize and reprioritize, and suddenly our new priorities make something or some connection from the past much more valuable than we may have been able to see at the time that we experienced it. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, this is either a moment of wanting to go back towards the past, to come into that place of energetic correction, wanting to come into that moment of being able to rehabilitate, having that moment of looking at something and suddenly seeing something in a different way that creates that need or desire to come into a restorational context. Or this is a moment of feeling that energetic amplification of something, not feeling an ability to be able to make those adjustments in terms of what that was, in which case you're taking that and you're carrying that forward as a valuable lesson to help motivate like what it is you're building forth. And that's that moment of, again, almost again, the energy of the masculine, not wanting to look back in regret, but almost saying to oneself, I want to make that misstep, I want to make that moment energetically matter, by recognizing and adjusting for the present, that, like, again, if it's not that ability to fix something, to almost say to oneself, I'm going to fix it, even if it means that the way I move forward from it will like amplify my own commitment to understanding what I could have done better in those contexts. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between the Four of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Seven of Wands in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our High Priestess energy, which is beautiful. And we love to see this here because we've got here, look at this. We've got here our Queen of Cups in its reversal and our High Priestess. These, I'm not surprised to see these cards together, because it really is that moment that we're seeing to a certain extent, with like the feminine energy feeling the full breadth of an emotional expansion point, feeling the emotional overwhelm. But this is the feminine energy observing their own emotional overwhelm, feeling their own capacity of emotions. That's that moment of the feminine, like holding, I want to say like holding a pose, if you will, in relationality to what they're energetically feeling. Because this isn't feminine energy that is reacting from that emotional point. This is a feminine energy that's feeling the value and the significance of being able to experience what would have potentially in the past been an emotionally overwhelming experience. But to feel an emotionally overwhelming experience and not allow it to create that sense of energetic reactivity, but almost allowing this moment of just being able to feel what you're feeling and observe it, to be able to move forward with that sense of understanding and relationality to whether you're experiencing that overwhelm of emotion because of something that you're experiencing from the past. that like you're feeling that like validation point or that sense of desiring some point of energetic correction on. Or this is feminine energy that is taking those lessons from the past and reaffirming their commitment to doing energetically better in the present context. While for masculine energy, in separation right now, a lot of the same is energetically true, because we see here that this is a lot of masculine energy in separation, doing a lot of this deep energetic path work, looking back at the past, asking oneself if there's something in the present that you can do differently. And we see even now that for some of that masculine energy, and this is why I'm going to say even now, don't get caught in the context of feeling regret. Regret is that sense of ability of being able to take that valuable lesson from the past, looking at something and saying, I wish I could go back there and do better. Well, congratulations, here you are. You can do better anytime you want. So even now we see that a lot of that has to do, and I'm seeing even now, if this is masculine energy, reprioritizing, recognizing and understanding that there's something here that you would energetically do different, or even feeling like you left energy in the past. This is masculine energy moving forward right now with that sense of either looking towards feminine energy, saying to oneself, is this something that feels like there is an energetic restoration point possible here? Is there a moment of looking towards feminine and saying that that's something I feel like is possible if I were to approach it in the right way? Or this is masculine energy and separation saying, I don't think that the energy from the past would value me coming towards them and energetically saying, I've learned my energetic lesson. This could even be a lot of masculine energy, almost saying to a certain extent, or seeing something and saying, I can't see that feminine energy being in a place that would be something that they would be open or willing to, right? Like that's that moment of masculine, like almost energetically weighing this to a certain extent. So for some of the masculine energy, it's really like doing that moment of going like, is this something that I feel like that would be valuable? Is this something that would create positivity, right? Or this is masculine energy that, again, is learning that valuable lesson from the past, understanding what may have brought feminine energy into emotional overwhelm points, especially if you weren't being clear in relationality to your path and purpose towards the feminine. And that ability of struggling through right now and feeling that ability to like be able to articulate your heart's desire to feminine is what is amplifying right now in terms of masculine going forward towards new feminine connection, hoping and building that manifestation point, like in the direction of like what you aspire and desire. In both ways here, though, we see that this is a lot of masculine energy, struggling through your own abandonment wounds and coming into that point of correction and saying, I understand why, like if this was the abandonment wound that forced you to keep a feminine at a distance when you should have pulled them close, this is the masculine energy almost saying to themselves, in that moment of separation, I'm going to learn how to do this within. I'm going to like, find that sense of myself within that sometimes pushes people away at a time that I should bring them close. And I'm going to battle that. Like that's a masculine. I told you, taking the outside externalization of that inwards and saying, I know what I need to battle right now. And it's not the feminine. I need to battle that part of me that at moments when feminine feels like they're trying to get close to me, I get reactive because that's my abandonment wound. This is masculine going, I found the culprit. It's right here. And I'm going to do better. I'm going to push through this. So that way I can protect the feminine energy from that part of myself that wants to push them away at a moment that I should bring them close. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that ability of finding that pathwork of modification. And I told you, these energies right now, it's not that it's easy. It's not that it's triggering. But we see even now that for the energy coming into divine union, ascertaining, seeing something from the past, potentially even feeling the same way about the past, is what is allowing for a lot of this pathwork to happen, because it's that moment that builds upon the context of feeling the value and significance of the energy that you're building with. So even now, if there's masculine energy that's feeling any of that frustration point, feeling that feminine energy that may be trying to get intimate towards you right now. Again, this is a moment that masculine's like, I don't want to do something. And feminine's almost saying to masculine, it would mean a lot to me if you would with me. It's not the thing that I want to do. It's the fact that I want to do it with you. This is masculine, like getting into that, like that feeling again. Masculine being like, oh, it's my abandonment wound popping up. There he is. It's all there. Here come the guards coming out the door. here comes that thing within me that's like trying to push the feminine away because I'm like, I don't want to do that. But what's the masculine doing right now? Masculine saying, for the feminine here, I'm willing to make that accommodation. For the feminine energy, I can make that accommodation. Like I can sit and do this thing even if I don't like doing it. Like this is the masculine energy going, yes, it's fine. I can deal with this. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's a masculine energy that, again, is not the fact that the masculine isn't feeling that same feeling in relationality to having to meet the feminine halfway in some kind of like journey here. It's the fact that masculine has been able to conquer their own sense of self, of when feminine saying, but I want you to do it with me. It means a lot to me. Feeling the intimacy of that statement and not shrugging away and pulling away from that moment, being like, I can conquer that thing inside of me. I can feel it. It's coming back up. I recognize it though now. I recognize it. I see it. I know that that's something within me that sometimes gets a little pushy when the feminine energy tries to bring me energetically clothed. And that's a masculine energy saying, for you, I wouldn't, and this almost masculine saying to feminine, like this I can even see some energy coming into divine union being like, I hate doing this. Like, I hate doing this. But for you, I am willing to do that. Because that's the masculine energy saying, like, I'm willing to, like, you know, come into that point of modification, even if it might make me energetically frustrated in the moment. Because what I have with you is so valuable that even those frustrations feel like drops in the well. So it's a drop in the ocean for what you give back to me in kind. Feminine energy saying the same thing to masculine. Looking at masculine, if masculine says that to feminine, feminine saying, I don't want you to do something if it's going to feel like, if it's uncomfortable for you. And that's a feminine saying, you know, like these, do you see how these two energies are modifying to each other right now? Saying like, I want to make sure that you're not in a state or space where you're doing something that's like too far, like beyond what you want to do. So these are energies that are learning to like energetically play with one another, but playing in a way, when we play well, does playing well mean that we just do what we want to do? No, when we play well with others, we're able to come into that space of energetically modifying. We come into that space of being able to like not just do what we want to do, but really kind of build that sense of ability of coming into working with another to facilitate that path point of harmony. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union right now. This is a lot of feminine energy going into some deep energetic overwhelm points. But finding that point of, again, observing rather than reacting, which is beautiful, because for a feminine energy to feel that emotion, this is the, like, look, nobody's energetically perfect. Masculine has a hard time when their abandonment wound pops up, not pushing people away at that heart of intimacy. Feminine has a hard time, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. When feeling emotional overwhelms, not subjecting others to their emotionality, but almost like, again, observing the emotional overwhelm to facilitate what feels like it's energetically productive versus what like is almost like has to be navigated from within. So now for feminine energy, even in divine union, experiencing a lot of that past coming back up in either metaphysical or tangible ways, feeling the emotional overwhelm of the connection that you have to the past, but being able to ascertain and look at it and experience it, but not become reactive to it. That is a lot of the feminine energy coming into that space or place of energetic or emotional balance. So this is like this is some big breakthrough energy for feminine in the divine union frequency, right? While for masculine energy, if this is masculine energy in the divine union frequency, seeing feminine energy navigating circumstances and situations where in the past comes like, I need to point this out, masculine and feminine energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency. Masculine's also going through this. Masculine's own ability to see feminine and to recognize that feminine is also going through it. But feminine maintaining that even energetic keel throughout it. Like, that's masculine. That is where masculine is looking towards the feminine right now as helping to set that template of the highest version of self. Because that's the masculine, like looking at the feminine and saying that if the feminine energy can move through something with that level of grace, with that level of confidence, masculine knowing the emotional, energetic overwhelm to a certain extent, and then almost saying to themselves, like, see how they're energetically carrying it. See how they have grace under fire. See how they're able to experience something that is heavy, but then navigate through it. Masculine's like, I am going to meet the feminine there. Because that's a feminine energy that's like energetically strong, not because they're not feeling their emotions. This is masculine energy that says this is the strongest feminine I see, because this is a feminine energy that feels lots of emotions, but they don't let themselves become reactive through them. And that's a masculine saying, I have to be able to learn how to feel my emotions too without being reactive, because I want to meet that feminine where I find them. I want to have that type of strength as well. So even now we see that even in this moment, these are energies that are helping one another build that better understanding of the highest version of self through a being just in proximity to one another as they continue forward on that journey. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 7 of Wands in combination with our 4 of Wands. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. We love this. Finally, a little bit of like easement today. We've got here our Ace of Swords. So this feels like, again, I gotta say, today, it's like one of those days, like as long as you stay like this, like good job, everybody. High fives all around. Because that's that moment, like there's a lot of this energy right now. It feels very triggering. It feels very difficult. It feels like you're like moving through molasses, right? I know. But that's the thing. What, like, when we're feeling that moment, when something's energetically heavy, is that a moment that we just stay in that and go, I guess it's going to be like this forever? No, these energies are just basically saying to one another and saying, like, let's just wait. Well, if we're feeling like this now, let's just give it a minute. Maybe in like an hour, it won't feel like that. Maybe in like a day, it won't feel like that. Because what is the one, like, again, when things aren't feeling great, the one thing you need to remind yourself is the one constant is change, right? The one constant is change. So being able to feel that difficulty, it's almost motivating this energy to persevere through it. Because why would you stay somewhere that is uncozy? Like, why would you stay somewhere that's uncomfortable? This is energy that's feeling that, and they're not, and I need to stress this, it isn't energy that's feeling uncozy or frustrated by the density of this energetic signature, and they're reacting to each other. They're not letting themselves get triggered. They're not experiencing that moment of like letting that testiness be something that they're subjecting the counterpart to. This is that moment that you build the energetic bridge and you look towards someone and you say, energy's kind of heavy today, huh? It's one of those days, like feels like a heavy blanket. I don't like it. It feels like somebody put a heavy blanket on everything. And someone goes, yeah. And they go, oh, you feel it too? Yeah, I feel it too. And then everybody feels a lot better because you're like, oh, good. I thought it was just me. See what happens when we don't let ourselves get triggered? Like, we just talk about how we're energetically feeling instead of reacting to it. It's nice. So even being able to just do that, to be articulate on the fact that it feels energetically more difficult, like that is like, congratulations. Like that's a beautiful breakthrough that people are having because that's that moment that it helps you build that sense of context because it's remembering that what you're feeling is energetically temporary at the moment. So we see even now that for the energy in the divine union frequency, that's that moment of saying, if it feels hard today, what do? We keep going. Well, like, why would we stick around in a place that it feels like you don't give up when it feels hard. Then you're just stuck in the place where it felt hard. You just keep going. You like move through it. Right? Well, for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is the energy of learning how to this is just like learning how to meet in the middle. This is just the energy learning how to meet in the middle. And I know it's hard. It's hard, right? You went on this healing journey. You're like, I've all healed. And then you got with someone and then suddenly they want something and you want something. And then you guys have different things that you want. But then you want the same thing ultimately. So you got to make a little bit of adjustments. But that's the beauty of it. Because again, these energies aren't becoming reactive. They're not subjecting to one another to the fact that they're feeling frustrated. They're not blaming the other in saying, you want something that I don't want right now. How dare you? These are energies that say, it's worthwhile. What we're doing, where we're going, we share the same manifestation goal. And when we share the same manifestation goal, making adjustments on the way, having to take, again, if someone if someone wants to stop at a rest stop on the way to go to Albuquerque, even if someone doesn't want to go see something weird, it's okay. Because you're it's all right. I know we're both going to Albuquerque. I know we're still going there. This is just a little bit of a side trip. So we see even now, the energy that's able to like navigate that, the energy that's able to keep them. This is why the manifestation goal is so important and valuable, because when you share the same manifestation goal with someone, you don't get frustrated that your immediate energetic needs aren't being met, because you're looking at the bigger picture of something. You're looking about the energetic gift that you have moving towards something, that through that even something that feels like it's an energetic inconvenience point with another feels like it feels small instead of large, because that's that movement of like looking and working on the context, on like the grand scheme of things, as opposed to meeting and feeling like what you immediately want in this exact moment. The difference between a child and an adult is that a child doesn't have a context of the future. That's why children get so frustrated when they don't get what they want exactly when they want it. That's not because the child is selfish. It's because the child has no perspective that the place that they're in is broader than where they are. So even now, that ability to modify and recognize this is feeling like a huge hurdle. Like this is a huge breakthrough for a lot of energy, because that's that moment of being able to like adopt or build upon the present need for the sense of what you're moving towards. Like that is that moment of experiencing momentary discomfort, but not something that feels like it's moving you off your own energetic path work. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is that moment of feeling the energetic difference between moving in alignment with someone that wants the same things that you aspire and desire, versus feeling that sense of energetic conflict. And frankly, a lot of the energy that was in separation right now is recognizing that there may have been a moment in past conflict that was amplified. The reason something didn't energetically work was because, again, ultimately you might have wanted very different things. And the ability, the easement point for some of the energy in separation right now, recognizing, identifying, and saying the only way I can have this for myself is knowing what I energetically want. If I energetically have that manifestation goal that I can then share with another to make sure that we both desire the same thing, that's that moment of feeling the difference between like recognizing that when we want the same things, all things are possible, versus having those moments of saying if something was creating too much energetic conflict on the day-to-day, if something was creating too many of these fracture points and moments that should have been like small modifications, perhaps that was the insight, and that's what we see a lot of the energy in divine union coming in separation, experiencing and looking at something and saying, maybe we didn't want the same things. Maybe the breakthrough that a lot of the energy is having in separation is saying to oneself, maybe the reason something didn't energetically work was because ultimately we really didn't want the same things. We didn't have the same priorities. We weren't working towards the same manifestation goals. And so for the energy in separation, to recognize and realize that, that's almost the energy feeling, again, this is why it feels like a midway point, the absolute frustration in what led prior to this, but also the sense of hope and saying, wow, if I could push something forward, if I could push towards my manifestation goal in the face of working with someone energetically, they did not desire and want the same things that I did. Imagine what it would look like if I were facilitating and moving in the direction of an energy that wanted the same things. That's why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, this is a moment that while it may feel very frustrating, this isn't feminine going back to the past, being like, I'm going to use this retrograde to go have some kind of like retribution. This is the feminine energy saying, imagine what would happen if I moved forward from this point with energy that truly wanted what I want. Imagine what that could look like. Imagine what that would feel like. That's a feminine energy. Like, again, feeling that sense of saying, like, the frustration of the past is what's fortifying me on my pathwork and going forward. Because that's that moment of saying, if something was energetically difficult, it probably wasn't energetically for me. Imagine what would happen with energy that wanted the same things I wanted. Masculine and feminine. Masculine in separation right now. One of the things that we're energetically seeing is for masculine energy in separation right now, that modality, that pathwork, that recognition point in relationality to recognizing and understanding and feeling to a certain degree what that path and purpose is. This is what is clarifying to you right now, particularly in relationality to situations and circumstances wherein you may feel like either you did not lead forth by telling the feminine what it is that your true desires were. Finding that ability within the self to overcome your own fears, to be able to share to feminine what your heart's desires are, to be able to work towards manifestation goals is the breakthrough that a lot of the masculine energy in healing is experiencing right now. And this is either, again, masculine energy, building that pathwork of purpose, or masculine energy that is reprioritizing what that manifestation goal is. And what happens when we reprioritize and we have that moment of reprioritizing what we feel is valuable, that can feel very difficult, because that's that moment of experiencing something that you may feel like you need to go back to correct, because suddenly your priorities have shifted and you see something in a different way because you value something in a different way. But all of these energies right now, even in separation, having that energetic breakthrough, having that moment of feeling that sense of understanding that's going to empower and guide you on your path forward at this time. Masculine and feminine energy, that is continuing to get clarification between our Five of Pentacles in combination with our Queen of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Justice in its reversal. Not surprised to see this card right now, because even now, what did we see? I told you guys, don't get triggered, 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 don't get triggered. I'm gonna get a shirt. I'm just gonna get everybody's got a shirt that says "Don't get triggered" to each other. Just, you see everybody today be like, "Don't get triggered," like, don't get triggered, because what we're seeing right now, I told you, a lot of this is bringing up the abandonment wound in everybody right now. Not a good match when we got the abandonment wound. Look at this. This is not good. This is not what we want to see. This is what I'm warning you against. Look at this. Okay, look. You got two choices here. All right, you want your choices here? You got your choices. Look at this. Look at this. We got this here. We got all these cards. Look at this. This is feeling the experiences from the past, letting them fortify and amplify your work going forward, letting it empower you. What happens when you don't do that? Leading in the abandonment wound, feeling the frustration, the anger, the injustice, letting the emotions overwhelm you, creating triggering situations, creating moments that just feel like an expulsion. Create those moments where you're like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just like, it's like letting that come out, but it's not changing it into something positive or productive. It just creates more of what hurt in the first place. So we see even now, for a lot of the feminine energy, this is heavy, this is hard, this is frustrating. It's not that everything that's coming up right now feels like it's good. This is feminine energy in separation right now, feeling like that full weight of the frustration potentially around past situations or circumstances, particularly and especially if you're feeling like there was some kind of observational point and feeling like you and another energy were not moving towards the same manifestation goals. That can be really, really triggering to realize or recognize, right? That can be very painful, because that's that moment that, again, is either the recognition point of someone having done so from a place of energetic fear, not knowing, or just recognizing that you and another energy may have wanted different things. We see how energetically overwhelming that can be. But again, letting that be a place where it empowers you. It helps you build that dream of saying, imagine what could happen if I led forward, like, let me take this lesson and carry it forth, is the difference energetically for the feminine, feeling that sense of empowerment with it, letting that be that like I told you, like the slingshot that motivates you forward, versus the slingshot that takes out someone's window, right? It's like, do you want that slingshot to motivate you forward, to just for like further empower you, or you're going to use it to take pot shots? Like, don't use it to take pot shots today, because this is just creating more mess from the energetic past. And I'm seeing it even now. I'm going to say this right now, feminine. Don't, like, rise above that energetic feeling to a certain extent, because it's that moment of asking oneself, how can I turn something productive? Versus, again, the difference between like healing a wound and pouring salt in the wound today is very possible. So we see even now, like, a lot of the feminine energy being like, you know what I should do? Like, like feminine going, you know what I could do? Like feminine being like, no, like, and that's the feminine energy going, that's almost the feminine energy going through that process, like even within their own self, is almost like this moment of feminine going, it's just gonna make something energetically worse, right? Like it just, like, this is almost the feminine energy almost feeling to themselves and looking back and saying, looking about like what, like, and being like, it's not going to fix something. It's just going to amplify the negative, right? This is almost the feminine just seeing that before them, but recognizing that abandonment wound, right? Like, that's the feminine energy almost saying to themselves and saying, if I do, like, not wanting to create, not wanting to, like, again, the retrograde having that moment of almost saying to themselves, like, I really want to, like, but the feminine almost saying to themselves, being like, I know you really want to, but again, your own ability to, like, again, what did we say about that child energy? Like, what does a child energy do? Someone being like, that's unfair. I'm being like, yes, that's unfair, but that we don't match the energy that feels like it's energetically unfair, right? We just because that's that difference between, again, feeling that thing that, like, creates that sense of frustration and just amplifying and creating more frustration in the wake of it, versus just being that moment of observing, feeling the frustration, and not allowing it to pull you back into, like, that emotional spiral, but instead just letting it be a point of energetic observation. Continuing, masculine energy in separation, that modality, that space or place that we see that you're effectively navigating right now, this is very difficult because we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now in separation, what effectively happens if you hit a moment that you reprioritize, and I'll just bring this up because it's coming through, when you reprioritize, suddenly when you reprioritize something, when your priorities shift, you sometimes can experience an abandonment wound where an abandonment wound did not exist before. Because what happens in that moment, I told you, it's that moment that of, again, feeling like you missed something. Having that moment of energetically feeling as your priorities shift that something that you may have devalued in the past is now the thing that you need the most in the present. So we see even now, again, I'm going to say this, masculine energy, if you're experiencing this, this is a good thing. I know it doesn't feel like a good thing. But your own ability to recognize and identify and reprioritize is a sign of your own energetic healing and your own energetic growth. And again, if you're feeling that sense of either energetically leaving something behind in the past that you now recognize was that point of energetic value for you, there's always that possibility of being able to build that sense of healing in the present. That's always ever present. And that's either created through a moment of being able to come into a point of reconciliation and rehabilitation around circumstances or experiences, or letting those serve as some kind of deep, valuable, energetic lesson that you can take forward with you as you proceed. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. The problem and the hurdle around this, and this is why I see even now, finding that point of modification may feel like it's tricky, because we see even now, if these are, remember that I told you how, like, the energy that's coming into divine union was like knocking elbows with each other? Well, this is that moment of, like, over apologizing to a certain extent, right? Because these are two energies that, like, are very mindful. Look at this. These energies coming into divine union are so mindful of healing that they don't like to project outwards, right? But even now, there's a moment that does allow for some kind of allowance in terms of being able to identify, like, what you want to energetically adopt and change going forward versus what needs to be changed within the self. And so we see even now, that's why for a lot of the feminine energy, if this is a moment where the feminine may be seeing a masculine that's, like, coming into a point of accommodation for the feminine, like saying, like, well, I don't really like doing something, but for you, I'll do it, kind of thing. This is the feminine energy almost saying, like, I don't want, like, again, this almost feminine energy, but I don't want you to do this just because I want to do it. And even then, that's a feminine energy saying, like, well, wait, if you've already articulated that you don't want to do something, like, this is the feminine energy recognizing that sometimes we can paint ourselves in a little bit of an energetic corner. Like, if the feminine energy is in that moment or modality where they're almost saying to masculine, like, I want you to like the things I like, that's a feminine being like, I can't, that's silly. Like, that's a feminine almost being like, that's silly. Like, that's a feminine energy being like, I can't assume energetically. Like, if there's masculine energy that, like, is hitting that Venn diagram where the feminine's like, I would like to do something in this way, and masculine's like, I don't really like doing that, but I can tell it means a lot to you, so I'll do it. And feminine's like, well, I don't like that you don't like it. That's a feminine being like, I'm catching myself. Like, I have to recognize that that's a feminine energy. Experience a moment where, again, not subjecting others to their emotions, right? Because that's the feminine energy that needs to get clear in terms of what they're seeking from the masculine, making sure you don't get hit in that moment right now, feminine, where, like, your own emotional needs may become paradoxical. Recognizing if sometimes we experience emotional needs that are paradoxical is also recognizing the abandonment wound that sometimes rises up in the feminine, and recognizing that, like, what you ask for and what you need might not necessarily feel like they're energetically possible. So just be a little mindful of that right now for the feminine coming into divine union. While for masculine, you may be bringing this up to the feminine. There may be a moment right now if something like that happened, if like feminine's like, well, I want like, I would like this to happen. And masculine's like, I can't create that. Like, that's not something that's energetically possible. It has to be like one way or another. Like, that's again, masculine, like helping the feminine, but not coming into that state of reactivity. Because we see even now, that's why I'm going to say again, please don't get triggered today around conversations that are related to wanting to do something to build an energetic feeling of togetherness, even if you're not necessarily both feeling like you like that thing, whatever that is, in the same way. Because that's basically what I'm seeing here. Someone who's like really fixating on wanting to do something because it means a lot to someone, but someone else being like, doesn't mean that much to me. And someone being like, I want it to mean more to you. And someone being like, I can't make that happen. I can't make that happen. Right. So we see even now that's a little bit of that energy working through their own abandonment wounds in the process of that. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. This is effectively energetically what we're recognizing here is a lot of the energy just feeling the same feeling of energetic frustration. Like, masculine and feminine, you're both basically feeling it right now. The only difference is feminine is feeling it more from the space of the emotions, right? The abandonment wounds that are coming up right now is the feminine feeling a lot of emotional overwhelm and trying to navigate it in a way that they're not, I want to say, healing the abandonment wound for the energy and divine union frequency right now is not subjecting others to your emotions, but being able to articulate upon them. Masculine energy, this is feeling a moment of, again, navigating through moments that feel like they're potentially imbalanced or feeling of the weight of injustice around things, feeling some kind of energetic unfairness here, particularly in relationality, potentially, again, towards the protectiveness towards feminine energy is almost what we're seeing. So we see even now, like that could be something that could feel a little bit difficult for masculine right now, because seeing the feminine energy having to emotionally navigate things like that almost brings up, like I told you, that army running out of the room, army running out of the closet within the masculine, but almost reminding themselves that the feminine energy does not necessarily energetically need the masculine's like protection in that way. Like, it doesn't need that modality there. It's like almost the masculine, like feeling that sense and then pulling back energetically, not wanting to overburden the masculine, the feminine in that way. So even now, both of these energies doing a lot of work on healing the abandonment wound by recognizing and observing what it brings out within them instead of reacting to it. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its reversal in combination with our High Priestess. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. One of the things that we're effectively seeing right now has a lot to do with this feeling of, like, I want to say there's a lot of energetic frustration right now, because not only do we see that the energy in the divine union frequency is navigating their own abandonment wounds that they're experiencing with some of the density and intensity of this energetic signature, but we also see the fact that they're experiencing others outside of the union frequency that are also experiencing this and potentially having less than ideal responses to the fact that they're energetically feeling this. So we see even now, this is a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency also navigating the fact that there's just a recognition point that there's others around them that may be experiencing this and not facilitating positive pathwork in the same way. That may be a little bit challenging. But even now we see that moment for feminine, it's requiring that moment of, like, again, like just kind of coming into that like sense of like balance. While for masculine, this may be that moment that almost feels like that amplification of like energetic protectiveness coming to the surface. All of these energies, I'm going to say it again, don't let yourself get triggered by outside circumstances and experiences or situations today. While masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, what we're effectively identifying is for a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now, this is that moment of trying to find that energetic balancing point may feel a little bit difficult right now. And especially, I just need to say this to the feminine, make sure that you're not asking for something that feels like it's potentially paradoxical. I just feel like that keeps coming up here, because this is a lot of the feminine energy that feels like it's navigating through a point right now that feels like they're experiencing a little bit of energetic conflict, because this is almost feminine energy to a certain extent, recognizing the difference that like the needs of the self versus the needs of the other to a certain extent right now may feel like they are, I want to say, oppositional, right? Especially if there's a moment, like again, I told you, the feminine energy navigating a moment of being like, this is something that I really enjoy to doing. And then others around them being like, I'll put it this way, like saying like they don't really enjoy doing that. Well, but they're willing to do it for you. Like that's almost the feminine energy, again, going through that process of feeling like the difference in energetic connections, wherein it feels like, again, this is almost feminine energy saying, I want you to like doing something. And feminine, like recognizing that like we can't ever create a space or place of someone enjoying something that they don't energetically enjoy. But that's almost like a call forth to feminine, if they're feeling like this right now, particularly energetically or coming into divine union, of remembering that one person does not need to be the be all and end all of connections for you. Like we're almost seeing to a certain extent that moment that almost feels like that amplification point of feminine, like almost seeking out, again, much like the masculine said over the past few days, energetic connections wherein they can find someone or work, like do something that feels like someone would truly enjoy doing something with them, right? So for masculine energy, if this is a moment, this is why I'm saying don't get triggered here. If the masculine is reaching that moment of feminine being like, what I'd like you to like doing this with me, this is masculine being like, I can't do that. Like I can't make myself like something I don't enjoy like doing. So that's that moment again, helping feminine energy recognize. And this is the beauty though, because the energy in the divine union frequency can recognize and identify that you don't need to be all things to one person. But the care of empathy that we give to each other is one that we can make those discretion points for the energy that we care about beyond what we enjoy doing, because the prioritization is in the individual, in saying like, for you, I do these things, right? While masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is the energy of the feminine, just feeling that sense of frustration, particularly in relationality to past path work. And even here we see there's something about this situation. For a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, this is I gotta say, a lot of feminine energy today may be too overwhelmed helping other feminine energy that's going through these processes and not having as easy as is not going through it with such a same sense of easement, is what I'm seeing to a certain extent. Because we see even now that this is feminine energy really having to navigate a lot of energy around them that may be feeling this energetic intensity at like a higher level, in like a harder way. And this is the feminine energy just trying to be there and like almost like create that like supportive architecture for those who may be experiencing this in a way, I told you, where the abandonment wounds are coming out, but they're not being navigated as easily or like as carefully as one would hope. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the masculine energy in separation right now. One of the things that we're energetically seeing for masculine energy in separation right now, this is the moment that we almost see that reprioritization point in relationality to what is effectively useful or viable or valuable, in relationality to what it is that you're energetically seeking, in relationality to energetic connections. For masculine energy right now, I'm actually seeing there's a lot of feminine energy around a lot of the masculine in separation. The difficulty or hurdle right now for some of the masculine energy is really, again, I told you, that amplification of choice. Masculine energy in separation, you may have this point of observation and understanding in relationality to what it is that you truly seek. That ability to be intentional towards feminine requires an ability to be able to be very authentic with the feminine in relationality to what it is that you want. And again, some of the masculine energy feeling the valuation point of potentially feeling like the reason that you didn't want to do so in the past was you weren't necessarily ready for divine union. It wasn't something that you were seeking. Because there was that moment that, again, one of the reasons that we see that some of the masculine energy sometimes avoids being intentional with the feminine is because they want to energetically leave your options open. So we see even now that for masculine energy coming into that state or space of not wanting to I want to say dilute your own energetic connection by having a lot of more shallow energetic connections with feminine. It's almost that moment that feels like the amplification of choice, because it's almost that moment of recognizing that if you're not leading forth with intentionality, the feminine energy can kind of recognize and understand that that's what you're trying to do. And that's the feminine energy, like effectively making a choice by not seeing that within you. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that modality of recognition, almost understanding to a certain extent that this is something that feminine always sees. This isn't new information. It might just be something that you're just understanding now. This could be a moment that for masculine, this is that point of observation in terms of really trying to identify and understand like who that energetic counterpart is. Either someone that you haven't met, who you have like ideally, like you're ideally creating that like version of like divine feminine in your own sense of self, so you can help recognize them when you see them, or a moment that you may be recognizing and identifying that aspirational point of someone being that energetic counterpart for you is someone that you need to kind of come into a place of healing with. Potentially recognizing and understanding if you did not lead forth with intentionality towards them, that's why you may have had some of that disruptive energy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our High Priestess in combination with our Ace of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Beautiful. We've got here our Lovers card. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is what's really lovely about this, because for the feminine energy that's not letting themselves get triggered right now, the gift of possibility in recognizing and understanding, looking back towards situations and circumstances and almost saying to yourself, if you identify that the reason that something wasn't moving forward was not due so much to like your own ability to have to navigate and change like how you were moving, but rather feeling like someone didn't share your own manifestation goal, that feels like, again, like a bit of an energetic victory here for feminine, albeit bittersweet, because that's the feminine energy that almost looks back on past experiences and says to themselves, I wouldn't do anything energetically different. The only problem I experienced was that I was potentially trying to build forth into divine union with an energy that did not desire same, or was not ready to do the work in terms of recognizing and identifying how to build from a place of intimacy that would allow it to be possible. So for feminine energy to feel that, that is a validation point that amplifies that sense of some kind of energetic victory, because that's the feminine energy saying, I don't necessarily need to learn how to do that. I just need to find the right energetic counterpart to do it with. While for masculine energy in separation right now, that ability of recognizing and understanding, there may be a lot of masculine energy right now that has come to the point of deciding that they're ready for divine union. And that has a lot to do with, again, really navigating and feeling like that sense of really deciding and deciding like what that manifestation of divine feminine looks like for you. This is either the masculine energy that feels like they already know this energy, and they're trying to move towards it, or this is masculine energy in separation that is manifesting this in terms of identifying and understanding within the self like what that ideal is, so that they can move with clarity in terms of trying to move towards someone to be able to achieve that type of energy of union. Masculine and feminine energy in coming into divine union right now, this is that ability that feminine is learning. A lot of lessons for feminine right now in terms of coming into divine union, of recognizing the difference. Like for feminine, we see a lot of masculine here coming into that point of adaptability, being able to push out of their own comfort zone for the needs of the feminine. This is feminine energy learning to either accept that. Like feminine energy almost having a hard time accepting the masculine doing that. So either the feminine energy coming into a place of accepting and being like, it's okay for a masculine to come out of their comfort zone a little to meet my needs, because that's a masculine showing their act of love, their energetic love towards me. Or this is feminine energy like stepping back a little from masculine and saying like, I'm not going to put that on you. I don't feel like that's energetically necessary, because that's that moment of feminine saying, the value of having someone do something with me that they enjoy is overriding the need of you having someone do it with me at all. So we see even now that the feminine energy to be able to parse through what they're emotionally feeling is almost a validation of the feminine having already done so much of that work that allows for divine union, because this is feminine energy that thinks about the energy of the partnership even above, and I want to stress this, when I say above their own emotions, I don't mean their own emotional needs, not their needs, not the needs that need to be fulfilled. This is a feminine energy that can advocate the difference between what they emotionally need versus what they can emotionally relinquish. Right? That is the feminine energy pushing their own energetic envelope to a certain extent, because that's the feminine energy saying, I am not going to override or usurp my needs for the sake of energetic connection, but I'm learning how to articulate exactly on what they are to make sure I don't create a state or space where the masculine energy accidentally oversteps them. And for masculine energy, recognizing and understanding a feminine that has that ability to do so, like a feminine energy that's able to sort through their own emotions and be able to articulate on them, even in moments where they can add, like express the difference between what they feel like they are needy about versus what they actually energetically need. This is a masculine that feels safe, that feels like the feminine is protecting the masculine in the divine union, because the feminine has conquered their emotions and is able to articulate them from a point of resiliency that makes the masculine feel energetically safe around the feminine. So you can see even now how these energies both work to protect each other. Masculine protecting the feminine from their abandonment wound, feminine protecting the masculine from moments when their emotions override their energetic logic. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Justice card in its reversal and our Three of Cups in its reversal. Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine divine union frequency. One of the things that we're energetically seeing right now is, again, this is and this is the feminine feeling protected from the masculine in this way, because this is masculine energy that effectively or energetically has, like, again, what happens when masculine energy feels the weight of the abandonment wound rise to the surface and is able to basically quash it down? That's masculine energy that is non-reactive. It doesn't come into a space of reactivity. It's masculine that's effectively learned how to, like, navigate or master their own sense of what happens when their passions rise to the surface, right? So even now, this is not the fact that the masculine doesn't feel these passions that rise up. The masculine energy, when they feel them rise up, they feel the imbalance point often rising up when they feel like something is energetically unfair. But then they put that sense of comprehension in terms of identifying and asking oneself if how they're going to move forward will bring energetic balance, or will it just make the masculine feel better? And for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing and identifying that to a certain extent is, again, the work of a masculine that's really doing a lot of that heavy path work, because that's masculine energy. It almost says, if it wasn't for the divine union frequency, I would do this. But this is a masculine energy almost pulling back and going, but that's not energetically productive, right? That's a masculine almost going, that's not energetically productive. That's not masculine, almost saying, like, again, masculine that moves with that sense of energetic protection. It does change the way that the masculine moves, because that's a masculine energy that, again, and this is why the feminine feels protected by the masculine, because this is the feminine energy that can tell the difference between a masculine that almost says to the feminine, I would like to do this, but this is what I'm going to do, because I'm being very mindful of not what I desire to do, but what I feel is energetically best for everyone. Right? And so these energies effectively always working to protect one another. But how are they protecting one another? By doing the work of the self, first and foremost. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, learning how to do this. And for masculine, does feel like it's creating that space of modification. Both of these energies coming into a place of finding that happy medium. Masculine potentially pushing out of their comfort zone, doing something with feminine that they might typically not really be that eager to do, but almost like leaving the verdict out, keeping a point of curiosity, if you will. Because again, that's that moment of the masculine saying, I'm not doing it. It's not something I would typically like do, but for this energy, I'm willing to give something an energetic shot. While for feminine, this is a moment of feminine saying, you know, I either appreciate the fact that someone is willing to do that. This is the feminine coming to that place of being like, I appreciate that someone is coming out of their comfort zone and doing something in that way. And I feel happy about that, right? I'm okay with it, understanding that that is the way that someone is expressing their love for me. Or this is feminine energy saying, I'm willing to find someone. It's more important to me to do something with someone who feels like that they want to do it. And that's some feminine energy almost again saying, like, I appreciate the sentiment, but I feel like it's so antithetical to what you're happy doing. I can find someone else to do that with me. And it's going to change on a case by case basis, but in either way, these are energies that are putting the needs of the self like a bit on the shelf for the energy of like what their collective whole. And that's the moment that the energy is like deep in the heart of the divine union frequency, because again, it's creating balance in a place where the balance is like almost like it can't be avoided. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, what we're effectively energetically seeing is that moment or opportunity wherein for the energy of the masculine in separation, this feels like a lot of restoration right now. So this is either masculine energy that feels like that need or that moment, if you've desired divine union, going back to something, trying to create that moment of healing towards something that you're looking at and saying, I would do something different now. I'm not the same person that I was. And that's the masculine, like almost affirming a lot of that path work and coming into being able to right some kind of energetic wrong here. But that's that moment that you're feeling and experiencing the wrong because you become a different person along the way. Or this is masculine energy that is utilizing that path work and seeing something in the past that they feel like they wish that they could change, not feeling an ability to do so in the present, but even now letting that kind of build that sense of information in terms of trying to determine how to move forward from that point with a sense of like finding that same like energetic passionate connection, almost feeling something here and trying to like, I see even now the problem with some of the masculine energy, if this is something that you haven't seen, it's a little bit more difficult because it's like almost like putting your hope in an energy that you haven't energetically met yet, right? So that's almost like seeking something but you haven't seen it yet before. So that can be a little bit harder, but even now we see that that moment of masculine coming into that sense of trying to find your own sense of self to help bring forward that sense of excitement in relationality to moving forward in that direction. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Well, for feminine right now, this is that moment. Again, this is feminine having that moment of energetic frustration, potentially in separation. And that frustration is either being articulated on the feminine, looking back on a masculine, and potentially feeling the frustration of a masculine that they feel like was not truly in alignment with their own manifestation goals. And that the masculine's own inability to articulate on them was a sign of the masculine not wanting to relinquish the ability of having other energy, like of making like that narrowing of the pathwork that is required to build towards divine union. Or this is feminine energy that's just affirming to themselves that, again, not building a passionate connection with masculine prior to the masculine bringing forth that sense of intentionality of purpose, because this is the feminine energy that's almost saying to themselves, I don't want a passionate connection to move me off path from someone who doesn't share the same intentions as I do. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Lover's card. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now. Not surprised to see this girl out here today. We've got here our Queen of Swords. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is feminine energy that's basically saying boundaries, 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 boundaries. Even through this is the feminine energy saying, again, the identification point for a lot of the feminine energy in separation is that moment of identifying, truly identifying what they seek in divine union. And just letting that be that reaffirming moment in relationality to ascertaining, even if something from the past did not work out, this is the feminine energy saying, I'm going to make it matter. Because that was a moment of me understanding the boundaries I need to set that's going to allow it to be a breakthrough point in the future. This is the feminine energy basically saying like, older, wiser. Thank you to all those lessons because now I know how to wield this sword. And so even now that's that feminine energy, utilizing that sense of discernment to really navigate and amplify and really articulate what it is that they aspire and desire in relationality to partnership. And just being in a moment of just like moving away from anyone or anything that doesn't feel like they have that ability to like articulate in the same way as the feminine. While for the masculine in separation right now, this is that modality where we effectively see that a lot of the masculine energy, if you're in separation right now, this ability to really amplify that, like I'm telling you again, a lot of masculine energy, not all masculine energy wants divine union. That's okay. This is masculine energy that is basically identifying and saying, am I ready for divine union yet? Or am I still in that moment that I have to ascertain and understand what it is that I want? And that's a masculine almost saying, I have to accept that if I don't want divine union, there will be some feminine energy that simply does not want to be in connection with me. I just have to accept that if I move in that way, there will be feminine energy that will be basically inaccessible. And that's a masculine almost saying like, if on a healing journey, that's okay too, because that's feminine energy articulating their boundaries and me recognizing that them saying that they don't want to move forward with me is not a moment that feels like an act of rejection. It's a feminine energy basically wanting something that I do not desire. So we see even now that that's either masculine energy coming to that point of recognition and understanding, healing an energetic connection from the past, almost saying to themselves, like, we didn't want the same things. I will be more articulate on what it is what I want going forward. Or this is masculine energy that's learning, building the confidence to be able to articulate what it is that you truly want towards feminine, to ascertain and say, like, this is almost masculine energy, remembering and saying, like, any divine union is possible, so long as it's coming into that space of mutual agreement in terms of what it is that you desire. And that's a masculine almost saying, I need to be able to articulate to the feminine what it is that I want if I'm ever going to be able to have what I truly feel like I want, like need. So that's the masculine, like learning that and seeing the feminine having the same strength to do so. This may even be masculine energy, saying I'm looking for the strong, tiered, healed feminine energy that knows how to speak up for themselves, knows how to advocate, knows what it is they want, has those energetic boundaries. Because that's a masculine saying when I speak from a place of honesty and resilience towards feminine, I give feminine the opportunity to energetically protect me with their own sense of energetic honesty and resilience. These are how we experience those points of protecting one another. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, this is the feminine energy, learning how to articulate that, because a lot of this feminine energy here is, again, feeling that disruption point between what they ideally desire versus what the reality of a circumstance is. And this is the feminine being able to move through that by articulating what it is they truly want from a thing, to be able to facilitate the best way to navigate it. So if this is feminine energy that really wants the connection with the masculine during something that they know that the masculine doesn't like doing, this is feminine energy saying, I can accept that you might like doing that, not doing this, and you're doing it for me. Or this is feminine energy saying, no, it's really important to me that someone who I'm doing this with enjoys what I'm doing with them. So why don't you go do something else and I'll go find someone that really wants to do this. While for a masculine, seeing a feminine that can sort through that is masculine going, you make things energetically easy because you know yourself. And your ability to know yourself protects me from accidentally misstepping at moments that I'm trying to help you and I don't know what it is that you energetically want. Because you always are able to tell me what that is. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of divine union right now. One of the things that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent is for the energy that's in the heart of the divine union right now. Masculine and feminine. This has a lot to do with the energy in the divine union, just facilitating and working through that pathwork of, again, a lot of the energy in the divine union right now, potentially having to navigate circumstances and situations outside of the union itself that require that necessary need of support or energetic assistance. Because we see even now that a lot of the energy in the divine union, that ability to build forth with one another through something difficult, it's almost that amplification point of feeling a lot of that energy coming towards you at this time, but also having to lay some heavy boundaries in relationality to what you can energetically give and what you can't. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency, that modality of ability of identifying what you feel you can energetically do to help others right now. This may be helping a lot of energy that may be going through issues around relationships, or potentially navigating, again, situations and circumstances wherein someone is coming towards you for some kind of point of energetic advice or support. And again, masculine and feminine energy, again, one of the reasons this is because when you're moving in this way, it's that's that moment that even the divine union itself acts as the guidepost to help others who are going through difficult issues, circumstances or situations. Final card in today's spread. Between our Knight of Wands in its reversal and our Queen of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Emperor in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. One of the things that we see right now that is very, again, energetically difficult is still this moment that masculine may still be kind of coming out of that moment of doubting their own self, doubting their own abilities. And what do we see that the feminine is doing again right now? Continuing to lend that energetic support, continuing to act as a clear mirror to the masculine, continuing to help have that point of energetic assistance. And we see even now this could even be for some of the energy right now in the divine union frequency, not just navigating this around some of the energy within the divine union frequency. So feminine helping the masculine come back into their feeling of their own energetic system, coming into that moment of recognizing and seeing their own self. But we see that this could even be energetically helping those around some divine unions right now that may need that sense of energetic support. While for masculine energy right now, I'm going to say it again, don't allow yourself to feel energetically triggered right now around circumstances or situations, particularly because I need to warn you right now. We see even now that this could be some masculine energy right now that may feel they're becoming more energetically reactive towards some energy that's around the feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender. And that's that moment that almost may feel some kind of amplification point in relationality to the masculine. Again, doing that work of not becoming reactive, not just within your own self, but how you're navigating situations and circumstances outside of the divine union with others, right? While for masculine and feminine energy, coming into divine union right now. This is all about that pathwork of modification I was talking about, because for the masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the amplification of masculine, almost saying to the feminine, I need you to be specific on what it is that your needs are. And this is why, again, avoiding triggering situations today, because if the masculine doesn't feel like the feminine is being clear, it's too easy today for the masculine to be able to try to facilitate doing something for the feminine that isn't energetically appreciated. So being able to communicate what it is that you truly need at this time will help avoid any of these potential pitfalls. While masculine and feminine energy, and again, feminine, same message, be clear with what it is that you want. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is, again, feminine energy. I'm going to say it again. Please, 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 please don't get triggered today. Please don't get triggered today. There's a lot of triggering energy around the feminine energy, both, again, how you're feeling towards masculine energy, also potentially towards the masculine energy coming towards you in not the most productive way potentially today. Being a little bit energetically mindful on what we see here. That's almost going to help here in terms of the feminine energy maintaining and holding your own energetic boundaries. While for masculine energy in separation right now, listen, I'm going to say it again. If there are moments right now that you're doubting yourself, or you're experiencing something from the past wherein you wish you could have done something energetically different, I'm very happy to tell you that you're in the present. When we are in the present is where we can make up for anything that feels like it needs that pathwork of correction from the past. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, going through a moment that may feel energetically overwhelming, it's allowing for that moment of being able to recognize and identify that ability to either come into a place or space of, I want to say, restoration, either for some of the energy here, or again, letting those energetic lessons from the past amplify and build that sense of understanding that's going to help you build better relationships moving forward. In both of these contexts, that is an energetic gift, but it all requires you to have that sense of energetic purpose and relationality to what it is that you truly want. So if you're having that moment of energetic confusion today, masculine, try to focus and build upon what you see, how you see yourself, where you see yourself. Let that be the template that you move towards. Bottom of the deck on this reading, we've got here our 5 of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. Here's the thing. When we have this type of energetic, heaviness, it can feel very energetically overwhelming, especially because we've got the combination of the retrograde in combination. So we got the pullback. I told you the pullback of the retrograde with the heaviness of the come down from the eclipse. It can feel a lot like that heavy pull down. Let that be a moment that you focus on the energetic positives. Let that be a moment that you don't get fixated and focused on staring at the past. Remember that anything that comes back from the past is meant to help inform your progress going forward. So let it be a place or space of creating productivity instead of one that allows you to feel overwhelmed with any feelings of energetic regret or sadness, because that's that moment that allows for that amplification of healing. Even at moments that we have, having that ability to look back on the past is the gift, because that's the moment that builds that sense of being able to create those modifications in the present. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind there are 2 things I do not read for here on this app. Those are pregnancy and medical. Happy to give insight on them in a private reading, and you can book a private reading on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, I will never reach out to you for a reading. The only way you can book a reading with me is on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, just a couple of things to bring up. My giveaway is still going on. If you would like to become a part of that giveaway and to enter to win a free private tarot reading with me, all you need to do is head over to the link in my bio. There is a 2-minute survey that you can fill out. Filling out that survey will grant you entry into a contest for a free reading. We are looking about doing some travel themed destination adventures, and I would love your feedback on where we should go. So thank you to everybody who's taken that survey. If you would like to take the survey, I mean, if you've already taken the survey and you have a friend you'd like to send it to, I encourage you to do so. Maybe they'd like to win as well. Now, also, we're very excited to announce that this past week we had our first classes in tarot. We started our journey with the Fool card. Thank you to everybody who participated in those classes. But if you missed the class, never fear. It is going to be available to those who missed the class as a video for my paid subscribers to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. If you would like to become a part of those classes, all you need to do is become a subscriber to my Substack. Your subscription will grant you access to our monthly live classes, as well as the videos of those classes if you missed the live, as well as the materials from that class, as well as a personal chat where you can ask me anything that you have to ask in relation to the tarot or your own personal journey. Also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you have included in your subscription all of those aspects, but you'll also have a free 1-hour mentorship reading with me, wherein we can review where you are on your own particular tarot journey, and I can give you insight on how to best use the classes going forward and anything that might help increase and amplify your own studies. I want to thank you guys so much. I'm very excited to be moving in this direction with you, and I cannot wait for our next class, which is going to be on May 15th. The next card we will be focusing our studies on is the Magician, and that will be at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of yourselves. Please take care of each other, and we will do this again